Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me begin by saying that I am delighted that you and Senator Britt will be leading this important subcommittee. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, since January of this year, approximately 900 individuals have arrived in Portland, Maine from our southern border. They join thousands of other asylum seekers who have made their way to the state of Maine. I want to tell you a story to illustrate a real problem that we have because of the current law that prohibits asylum seekers from working for a number of months. I received a call last year from a restaurant owner in Freeport, Maine. He was desperate for more workers. He was having to curtail the number of hours that he could be open because of a lack of employees. Right next to that restaurant was a hotel that was hosting asylum seekers and their families. The hotel was full of them. The hotel owner wanted to hire some of the asylum seekers. In other words, we had a situation here where employers were desperate to hire these individuals who had made their way to the state of Maine, and these asylum seekers were very eager to get to work. They brought skills with them, energy with them. They wanted to be independent of local aid. They wanted to be able to support their families. So if we allowed asylum seekers to work after a 1-month vetting period, as long as they entered through a legal port of entry, 1 month would give us time to do an initial background check to make sure they weren't on the terrorist watch list, for example, and to verify their identities. Why couldn't we change the law and have a win-win situation here? The asylum seekers are eager to work and support themselves and their families. The employers in my state are desperate for more workers, and it would also benefit the municipalities that are under increasing strain as they're supporting thousands of asylum seekers. So Senator Sinema and I, along with a bipartisan coalition, have introduced legislation that would shorten the period to 1 month. Would you support such a bill?
Senator, thank you very much for your question. I very much look forward to working with you on that bill. You and I have spoken before about the great misfortune of having employers throughout the United States that depend on additional workers, seasonal or otherwise, and yet our fundamentally broken immigration system cannot meet that need. And I take a look at the country to the north, to Canada, and how their immigration system actually is more responsive to their labor needs than certainly ours is, whether it's the H-2B program or the fact that an asylum seeker must wait 150 days. I think it's 150 days since the filing of their application before they can apply for a work authorization. Our asylum system is fundamentally broken. Our whole immigration system is broken, and I very much look forward to working with you on a bipartisan basis.
Thank you. I'd very much appreciate that. We can't fix every problem, but boy, we ought to be able to fix that one. Let me, in light of Senator Peters' comments about homegrown terrorists and the domestic extremists, violent extremists, ask you about another issue. Increasingly, we're seeing terrorist groups in Afghanistan become far more capable of launching an attack on our Western allies or eventually on the homeland. Unfortunately, a great deal of material, weapons, and equipment was left when we did our hasty departure from Afghanistan. I'm very aware, having helped create the Department of Homeland Security, of your role in protecting critical infrastructure. What is the department doing in light of the increased threat of terrorist groups that are being given safe haven in Afghanistan?
Senator, your question goes precisely to the reason why, in sharing with Senator Peters the growth of domestic violent extremism, I articulated explicitly that the prior iterations of the terrorist threat have not disappeared. We have not lost our focus. Our Office of Intelligence and Analysis works with the rest of the intelligence community so that we have a clear understanding of the threat in foreign nations that could have an impact on the security of our homeland. And I want to assure you that not only the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, but our Customs and Border Protection personnel, our TSA personnel, our Coast Guard personnel, our entire department is focused on the very issue that you identify. We are not taking our eye off the prior iterations of terrorism because they have not disappeared from our threat landscape.
Thank you. Finally, let me very briefly mention and remind you of the pressing need for a new Border Patrol station in Holton, Maine. We're seeing a huge increase in the number of encounters on the northern border, and the President requested funds through your intervention for this station in fiscal year 2022. Congress fully funded that request, but last month I learned that Customs and Border Protection had decided to reallocate nearly all of the funds appropriated for the Holton Station to another project. And I would just reiterate that the current station was originally intended to support just 9 Border Patrol agents. It currently hosts 40 personnel, and the facility is in need of replacement due to annual flooding, toxic black mold, contaminated well water. It has a host of problems. I do appreciate that you included full funding for this project in the budget requests for this year, but I'm concerned that the funds that we previously appropriated for fiscal year 22 were repurposed, and as I said, I found that out not from the department in Washington, but from local officials. The new timetable greatly delays the completion of this new station, and now it will push it from 2024 to 2028. I would just ask you to take another look at what was done in this area. I realize you may not be prepared to respond today, but if you'd like to explain the delay in the project and why the department disregarded the funds that were in the president's budget, again, I believe due to your intervention, and we approved. It's very frustrating to the hardworking Border Patrol agents in northern Maine.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly, quickly.
I'm very well aware of the unfortunate redirection of the funds from Holton to what I believe is the Laredo air facility because of increased costs in that urgent development. I understand the urgency of addressing the Holton station. We did include funding in our fiscal year 2024 budget. Senator, if I may, let me take a look at what we can do to address the urgency, and I commit to you that I'll follow up with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, and thank you for your tolerance, Mr. Chairman.
Chair Murray.